Hola, hoy vamos a hablar sobre cómo describir o narrar en el presente, using two different forms, con el presente indicativo y una nueva forma, and a new form, que es el presente subjuntivo. So, you have learned since Español 1 how to conjugate verbs in the present indicative. Por ejemplo, caminar es yo camino. Escribir es él escribe. So today we're going to focus on learn about la conjugación del presente subjuntivo. Do you remember the word tema? It means topic. Nuestro tema de hoy es el subjuntivo. El subjuntivo es un modo verbal that is used along with the present indicative to describe or narrate en el presente. So let's check real quick how we conjugate verbs en el presente indicativo, the present indicative. Por ejemplo, el verbo reciclar, to recycle, tener, to have, conducir, to drive or to conduct. Remember that we have seen that in order to conjugate the verb in the present tense, we need to consider the stem and the ending. Verbs are going to have specific endings according to the subject. So we need to drop the ending of the verbs in the original form or the infinitive form and then conjugate it according to the subject. Por ejemplo, these are my endings for AR verb. So I begin saying yo reciclo, tú reciclas, él recicla. Now, there are some verbs that have special conjugation forms, and in this case, I need to pay more attention to the stem. El verbo tener, that means to have, has an special yo form. And also, when it starts with a to form, the stem changes from E to IE. Yo tengo, tú tienes, él tiene, etc. For el verbo conducir, this is the type of verb that is special in the yo form only. These are my endings for IR verbs. And now I see here that the yo form is yo conduzco. So notice the inclusion of this letter Z right in there. In this yo form only, however, because look, the tú keeps the regular stem and you just change the ending. Tú conduces, él conduce, nosotros conducimos, vosotros conducís y ellos conducen. Now, when it comes to the subjunctive, I'm going to ask you please to take notes, apuntes. Vamos a escribir, let's write down these endings for the subjunctive form. Es, hemos, eis, en. You can pause the video if you needed to write this down. In the case of verbs that end with ER and verbs that end with IR, they're going to have the same endings. A, as, a, amos, ais, an. Now, when conjugated in the presente subjuntivo, there is something that we need to have in consideration. We just review how to conjugate for the present indicative. So now that is going to be a key when it comes to conjugating the subjunctive because we're going to use the yo form of the present indicative. Right here, I need to keep the stem from the yo form of el verbo reciclar. So these are my endings for the subjunctive form. And now I'm going to conjugate in the subjunctive. I drop this O from reciclo and then I change it for the letter E. So I get yo reciclé. In the case of verbs that end with ER and IR, like we said, they have exactly the same ending in the subjunctive form, but also I need to consider the stem of the present indicative. So, for the verb tener, my yo form begins with T-E-N-G. and then I change this O for the letter A at the end. Yo tenga. So look at this stem. It's exactly the same stem that I'm using here for my subjunctive conjugation. Let's look at this in detail so we can see the entire conjugation for all the forms, okay? We have reciclar. Yo form present indicative is yo reciclo. So I'm going to keep the stem, R-E-C-I-C-L, recic. And then I use the endings for the subjunctive form. Yo reciclé. Now, my conjugation in the present subjunctive is going to look like this. Yo recicle, tú recicles, usted recicle, nosotros reciclemos, vosotros recicléis, ustedes reciclen. Este es el caso del verbo tener. The yo form present indicative of tener is yo tengo. So I need to keep that stem ending with the letter G. So the yo form present subjunctive is going to be yo tenga. And this is going to be reflected in all my conjugation for the present subjunctive. Yo tenga, tú tengas, usted tenga, nosotros tengamos, vosotros tengáis y ustedes tengan. Let's see this other one because it's also special in the yo form. The yo form present indicative of conducir is yo conduzco. So I'm going to keep this stem that includes the letter Z como en zorro y se. Okay? So the yo form present subjunctive is yo conduzca. So the conjugation of the present subjunctive for all the subjects is going to begin like that. Yo conduzca, tú conduzcas, usted conduzca, nosotros conduzcamos, vosotros conduzcáis, ustedes, ellos, ellas conduzcan.